Um, how do I put this? This video sort of came last, but it's not last. It's last forever. Um, I did a few videos earlier after I came back out and did some pretty powerful what I call open clearing, which is like letting release. You know, when you're a sponge and you have feelings that go really deep, and it's like I've known since childhood how sensitive that I actually am. Um, that it's like a rose with petals, like the way I perceive a girl, a goddess. I perceive a goddess in every girl, just like I did when I was a small boy. Okay, because my antenna is just so sensitive. I'm picking up on everything, even the things that you're not even aware of yourself. And I know that because as a child, I was that sensitive. So I didn't want to experience anything that was going to hurt my feelings, and I didn't want to experience anything that was going to hurt your feelings. So that everything is just pristine, like there's clarity. It's what it really is purity, which is the purity of your heart, which is the purity of your spirit, which is the purity of your love that you have to share, because there isn't anything you're holding in memory that represents any reason to experience what love is to your own heart and soul and share that in spiritual energy with another spirit, which is another soul. Which is why, for me, when I grew up as a child, it was always eyes to eyes, soul to soul, spirit to spirit communication. And it didn't have anything to do with what you look like physically, and it didn't have anything to do with the rest of the world. It had to do with the two souls and the spirits that are coming together in energy, the level at which they vibrate and harmonize with the waves that they're both experiencing because they're both tuning in with each other. The essence. That's what I read is your essence. The essence of your spirit, which is the nature of your spirit. Okay? Because it's a spiritual battlefield. So in a spiritual battlefield, it's the essence. It is the essence. And I know Mama's essence. Okay? You're feeling the essence of her flowers, which really is the essence of her purity in spirit that you're feeling, which is the nature of her spirit. Okay? That's why a spirit that is highly sensitive or hypersensitive, which is hyper speed, is going to be so sensitive that it's like riding a girl's like a goddess's most sensitive flowers. That you dare not want to ruffle the flower, a blade of grass, right? Anything that disturbs the peace on any level, to be able to experience the purity of the realm, as if you're not there in any physical mass way. But she's feeling the spirit that is in the presence, which means you can't see in a physical body the spirit. But you can feel the spirit, the essence of the spirit. So that's one spirit to another spirit, which is the essence and the essence. They're experiencing each other. That's the level of sensitivity that I have within my own spirit, which is connected to my oversoul. Okay? So one of the reasons that this is important with the follower videos that I came up is really what happened this afternoon when I would put up the videos with Karen McDonald, my 13th Arcturian White Bear clan mother, okay? And the things that I become aware of throughout my entire life, when you realize I'm not supposed to experience anything less than what love is wherever I go, then why am I experiencing something less than what love is here? So when you're 4 years old, you can imagine what it's like to have to explain that to yourself when you're already aware of the fact of all the programming. Okay? Now, when we use the word fake, it simply means that, as I've explained in the past, when you're able to read a planetary consciousness terrain, you're actually reading the electrical density. And the electrical comes through the data, the records, the Akashic records, that represent what's held in cellular memory of all the records. Okay. That's why I mentioned I could tap into 1947, even though by a calendar, I was there in 2018, in the summer, late spring. So how does somebody's energy field tap in and experience an event that's not happening in your physical projection, which means it's a clear day, it's a sunny day, the pavilion's there, the sun is out, a little bit of a breeze, clear as a bell. Wow. Next thing you know is you're bawling for 20 minutes. You're experiencing the pain of those souls. They're trapped. Okay? So what did I do? I released them. A polarity integrator now experiencing the purity of your heart with the purity of your love. And what does that do? It pulls them in. Pulls the fractures in. Because what it really means is if you're an eternal being because you're experiencing eternal love through your heart, then that means that you have access, particularly where you're at. Otherwise, you wouldn't have been able to experience what you experienced if you didn't have access to it with your heart and your soul and the essence of your spirit. You have access to that vector, those vectors, time-space vectors as they're known. Although I don't experience time in the way that time is defined, on an axis, if you will. Okay? Which means outside the time stream, which is pure energy. Works a little differently. And so, in other words, you can be in both places at the same time, and that's true. In other words, my true self is outside the time stream. That's how I know the difference between a time delay and one in which there's no delay. Okay? That's the difference between consciousness, or pure energy consciousness, and tape delay. Is a speed differential because of an AI. That's why it's a fallen spiritual realm. Okay? It fell in time density, which is electrical density consciousness, as a result of Star Wars. Okay? So if you added up all those fractals, try and put a number on that. So when you're plugged in to the planetary consciousness field, as I mentioned in my future videos here, it means that I can experience what everybody else is experiencing, as evidenced by the experience when I was 9 years old. Because there isn't any separation. Which means I can connect to what you're experiencing by experiencing what you're experiencing. And then you're saying, wait a second, I'm not supposed to experience this. Then why am I experiencing it? Because I'm getting the signal connection. Either by what I feel or a thought form. So now you got to know the difference between your thoughts and what you feel, between what you are and what others are experiencing, that you have the ability to experience. So what it does is you begin to realize that there are different levels of empathy, and I've spoken with this a long time ago, going like this. But that's true. There are different levels of empaths. And the different levels of empaths are measured by how sensitive you are and how hypersensitive you are to any input on the input side, which is the antenna side, which is how sensitive your sensors are. Right? That's why when I was a child growing up, it did not take very much for me to have high blood pressure, being in an environment like this. So you realize that this is a very, very foreign environment that I'm not well suited for, in the sense that I realize that anything that I experience, because of my hypersensitivity in a wave form, drives my blood pressure up. In other words, it's called reactive hypertension, which means I'm reacting to the waves. I'm reacting to the distortions of the waves, because I'm not experiencing what love is. I'm not experiencing a still point in my own heart and soul. So what occurs over these next videos that I did is what I call an open book. Because I realized as a child, if you're going to run with an open receiver in a spiritual battlefield, you want an open cosmic level receiver and a transmitter. So as you're picking up on all the signals, so that your state of awareness is very aware of what's going on, if you see yourself as a mother or father, as a guardian of your children. I say it that way because most people that are older, that are mothers and fathers, know what it's like out of love to protect your own children, protect your garden, protect your property, the way that property is defined. How about protecting your planet, protecting your realm, protecting the water, protecting the air, right? So now you can start to measure across the train, well, how many people do you know that were using their energy in order to do that? How many people spent 20 years trying to clean the air up? How many people do you know that spent time trying to clean the water up? How many people do you know that tried to clean the soil up? How many people do you know that are native, which means they have a spiritual relationship, that know and have felt the essence of Mother Earth? Where they're always with her, to comfort her, show her love in spirit, to be in the ocean, to be in the lakes and the rivers, experiencing and being kind and gentle and nurturing with her essence. So this is how I communicate, which is like an open book. So I've used an example before. When I met a girl that I've never seen before, face to face, eyes to eyes, soul to soul, spirit to spirit, who essentially wanted money because of a child that she said had leukemia, right? So I embarked on having some long letters with her, and I revealed everything to her. What would you like to know about me? I'm not afraid to throw all the skeletons out in the yard here, because we're in a spiritual war, and I figure that you know that. So I'm not going to live in fear with all these skeletons that are sitting in the closet, because I got to get rid of them all. I got to burn them all up, because when I was 4 years old, that's what I told myself. That's a command function. I'm going to delete and burn off anything that's less than what the purest of love is, because that's what I am. That was my command function at 4 years of age. So you realize you're going to throw everything at the book at you. Everything. All their tech. So this is for all the marbles. So what I do is I explain